All right. Welcome to another episode of the Anime Village podcast. We are joined by our two co-founders, Gary Phillips and Bryan Soroka. It's been a little while since the last time we've had him on the show, but super excited to have him back on with some great updates and news and everything that we have going on. Especially we have a new marketing plan that's coming out, and it's called Reps. So first of all, before we talk about Reps, let's ask how you guys been doing? How's everything going? It's been a little while since you guys been on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, we're making progress in a lot of different areas. Still a lot of challenges that we're facing, obviously, as with any startup. But definitely, when you mentioned reps, that's a big step in the right direction. The one thing I will correct you on, though, is that it's not something new. It's just kind of encapsulating what we do in a way that better communicates what we do, because the message that we have is rather complex, but at the same time, this kind of better defines it, and which is amazing for the people that we're trying to reach.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is my second time back on the podcast. Bryan's been here a lot more than I have. And when you think about reps, it really comes from it's really just the integrated marketing we've been doing for the very beginning. And as Bryan articulated, it is just taking that message we have now and getting it to a point where people can absorb it better. And for us, it's when you're focusing on so many pieces and parts of a company and building and building and building, sometimes your own pieces of marketing become secondary to the other things that you're focusing on working on, like the stories and the art and the metaverse projects and things like that. So when you start stepping back a little bit, getting a little breathing time for production and producing, you go, we need to really start thinking about now taking that next marketing step and engagement and start really driving our message to that clarity point where people can look at it and go, wow, I get it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Reps does now.
Yeah. Can you tell us about Reps and what exactly does Reps mean? And for the listeners out there that they can understand a little bit further what it means.
Sure. So Reps was kind of a happy accident. So Gary and I, during our regular meetings, we check out the website, who's visiting, what the performance is like, what kind of reception we're getting with some of our social posts, and also the discussions that we have with possible partners and other people. And really, the conclusion we were drawing is that they weren't quite getting what we were putting down, at least not in the detail that we wanted them to, and also not to the point where it really highlighted what our USP, our unique selling proposition is, or what differentiates us from other companies. So we kind of took a step back and we started thinking, okay, let's break it down per these different pieces and then re-engineer it into something that is more cohesive. And that's where Reps came in. So our process is really, we have our ground floor, our foundation, which is storytelling. So the stories that we create, the characters that inhabit these stories are found throughout everything that we do. It doesn't matter what the product, doesn't matter what the service, they're always there. So then we thought about, okay, how do we introduce these stories? Like in what order or what chronology do we introduce them? And that's where Reps came in. So I came up with, okay, well, the stories are introduced and the characters are introduced first in our manga. And then from there, it's our metaverse, which includes NFTs, avatars, and some other things. And then from there, it's the games that we're developing. And then from there, and this is further out in the distance, are the anime limited series that we want to produce that, again, are based on these stories and characters. So I distilled them down into manga, read, metaverse, engage, and then we had games, which is play, and then finally we had the anime, which is stream. And then I didn't even put it together. Gary was looking at it and he goes, that spells reps. And it's like, oh, you know what? You're right. It does. So that's where reps came from. It was a happy accident that we came across that anagram. So yeah, that's really what it is. And it kind of, we've discussed this before on the podcast where we have this integrated approach to how we're building this company and how we're releasing the products. And this is a perfect representation of what that is. Reps, read, engage, play, stream. That gets everything in there, and it also follows how we're releasing products and how people can, follow us and get engaged and do all those wonderful things.
That's awesome.
It was the life cycle. I in a previous life, I spent a lot of time in the Department of Defense doing work the aerospace and then also in the automotive industry. So everything has an acronym. So this is like, oh, it's perfect. Yeah, it kind of falls right into it. But I think that the other piece of it is when you want, and when you try to get that bumper sticker, right, when somebody can look at something very quickly and understand. Bryan and I both have, very extensive marketing backgrounds and communication, branding, and things of that nature. So when we look at something, we think of how fast can you get somebody to understand something and absorb it. Then not only absorb and understand, but then take it to that next level and say, oh, okay, so this is this. So your process is very simple. You go from here to here and here. And, Bryan put it perfectly. You just it's almost like even a caveman could do it, right? Manga read, and you go through that process of putting it together, and you really understand. Okay, so your storytelling carries from here all the way through to that final finale of the anime series. It's like, yes. And that life cycle continues because now you come up with another version, another version. Well, guess what? Another version becomes another engagement, another play, and another stream. So it's a constant rotation of that circle of life for our product. So no matter what that genre is, whether it's supernatural or action or slice of life, etc., it'll continuously go. So we continue building on it. So your life cycle is not something that's cut, where you create something, then when it's done, you're done. So this gives us a very extensive library that we'll be able to pull on, and also a very extensive playground to play in when it comes to developing RPG games and things of that nature. Because as the story continues to expand, so does the game, right?
Yeah, I know it's a phenomenal idea, and I think you guys put it best. I think one of the coolest things, and actually one of the voice actors, Mark Hildreth, who was in Gundam Wing, said when we talked about what we were doing here at Anime Village, said that we're not doing things linear. We're doing like a almost like a circular thing. It's like some things just come to an end. Well, here it's like we're circular, like kind of like creating. It's like it's almost like it's awesome because you can read and then you can engage online, but you can also play as those characters that you're reading about, which a lot of people I think would love to do in any aspect of anime that they're reading or watching in some sort of way. Because I mean, you watch an anime, you're like, I wish I could take Naruto, or I mean, there are Naruto games out, so not the best example, but like being able to take him and run him through like a free world. So it's cool that you guys are creating this reps and taking this strategy and presenting it out there for folks to like really read, and you put it out there in a blog post.
Yeah, and those are good examples too. Naruto's a really good example because you have a manga, you have games, you have this, but they're created by different people. So there's no the flow only goes when someone else picks up the licensing of something to create something. So for us, it's our own licensed material that we can continuously build on. If we took someone else's material, you're subject to all the other licensings that are out there. So you might only get a digital game, or you might only get a mobile game, or you might only get, I can do a manga series, or I can only do an anime series. I can't do all the things I want to do, which like we're doing now, which is taking you to that whole reps type of integration. And I think you'll find that in a lot of games too, like Genshin's out there. Genshin, they're now getting the characters out there selling things, right, from this. You'll find other animes that do the same thing. They'll take a manga or an anime series that never was a manga, and then they'll start creating a game from it, and they'll start creating merchandise. Then they'll do the fandom that way. So for us, we look at it as a full circle for a fan. If I read something, I really like what I read, I want to be engaged in it. Now I take you to that metaverse, we can run around and be that character, be engaged. Now I want to say, okay, this is really cool. How cool would it be to have a game that I can actually play this story? You go right to play, you get the whole game you can play now. Now you're actually in the game. You're that actual character going through the entire story and beyond, because like a game and like an anime, it takes a manga that expands that story beyond just what you see on the paper. So it allows your imagination to see more than what's there, which is really cool.
Right. And I think the stream part is going to be really cool when like that piece is also put together, because it's not only playing, but you can also watch like that character, and that's going to be really cool.
I mean, we're not that much of Pollyannas where it's like, this is like going to be something that's coming at you in 6 to 12 months, right? This is forecast down the road. But from a brand building perspective, that really makes sense, because the stage that we're at now is building awareness, right? Adamanto, some of the other properties that we've introduced are not household names. You walk down the street and it's not like if I tell people, hey, who's Shinichi Tanzo, it's not like that light bulb's going to appear above their head, right? We're getting better, and we're growing our audience the right way, slowly, and creating stuff that they can really have fun with. But at the same time, this whole reps approach to thing from a marketing perspective, I think is really, really smart. It's not something that hasn't been done before, but I don't think it's ever been done this way in that order, because you mentioned other properties that have video games, right? If a video game really takes off, then they start expanding it, right? Then maybe they release a manga for it, or then maybe there's a show for it. Or if it's a manga first, then there's an anime that follows it because of the popularity, so on and so forth. I truly think that the reps property, when we're speaking about this in 5 years, is going to be something that people are going to follow, right? It's not going to be something where we have an IP that is in this broadcast channel that is an anime, and then we're going to go the other way. No, we're starting with the read, and then we're following out, with the EPS. I think that's really going to take hold, but it's going to take a bit of time. We've just kind of like introduced it over the past year. Now we've got a name to it, so now we got to build upon that.
Right.
Yeah, in the future, what would be awesome is to be able to take independent people that are creating mangas who want to take that manga and do the same thing. We could help them replicate that within our metaverse. They could get land in our metaverse, create the environment in our metaverse, and carry it all the way through too. So you can bring that value not just to our own titles and what we currently have, it can also be to titles that other people have too. And that brings that's why a metaverse is not just our enclosed siloed based, it becomes open. Now we have 4 genres out here. We have our social capital, but if you take the islands we have, the villages, each one of those has the capability of somebody creating another story, bring that into our metaverse, and then carry that throughout all the way through the same process. So that's the whole purpose of what we want to create, is grander than just us, right? A metaverse is open to everybody, and interoperability comes in and things like that, where you can do those creations. But if you can imagine, we have our 4 that we're focusing on. If people come in and they bring their 4, all of a sudden now you have 8 of these villages and 8 of these districts, 8 of these storylines to go through. The scale of it becomes incredible. And that's one thing we look at for the growth of this, is building this so other people can participate as well.
Yeah, I think that's also a really cool aspect of what you guys are doing. And I think being able to bring in other artists and other mangas, like, it's such a cool, I mean, you're giving someone else an opportunity to, maybe achieve their dream and something that they want to do. And for them to see that their characters also come to life, like coming into life in a video game and stuff. So I think that's another really cool approach that you guys have to this, just, besides your own mangas, but like being able to expand that world. So I think that's an awesome idea.
100%. I mean, that's been the idea from the beginning. It wasn't just, featuring the stuff that came from our heads. It was, collaborating with other artists, with other writers, with other developers, with other people that, whoever had these ideas, and helping them kind of broadcast that out there, right? That's the whole idea behind interoperability, where it's, it's the Ready Player One kind of scene, right? Where you have King Kong and you have Mechagodzilla, and then you have all these different characters that are just coming from all of these different people, and just uniting and being able to engage the way you want to engage, right? And that's also another cool thing about reps, is that if I'm not into gaming and I'm just into manga or anime, I can pick and choose these different parts and experience the IP the way I see fit. So yeah, I mean, that's why it always brings a smile to my face, right? It's just
imagine how cool it'd be, is you're one area, 12th century Japan, in Kyoto, Japan, where all these samurais and people are running around ninjas in these costumes and stuff, right? Then you go over here, you go across this one over, you're in a cyberpunk area, backstreet cyberpunk kind of craziness of that. So then you go to the next one, it's this medieval whatever. I mean, there's so many different avenues you go to that you can expand and see and stuff like that. And slice of life is really big right now. There's a lot of stuff going on to have that. And you go to the slice of life one, there's music going on, there's dancing going on, there's all kinds of fun things. You can imagine what creative people are going to bring to that area as well. Then supernatural is one of the things we're really excited about too. Bryan and I are both fans of that. That's going to be a big thing. But in that area, you can have zombies on one side. Over here, you got all kinds of mystical stuff going on. There's some fun things you can create in these environments that your interoperability in our metaverse is almost going from one island to another island, right? Because it's almost like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metaverses in one, because the experience is just ongoing. It's not a casino. An NFT library or this or that or this. You're going from a village that's created in the lights of a story, and you're going to be able to walk around that village. Well, the next village is going to be another story, and on and on and on. So your story experience and your being able to see these things could be massive. So it could take you months just to go through and go each one of these villages and go through it. So to me, it's that experience of taking a game and say, no, we're not going to just create this little game where it's all about this world. And Bryan hit it. It's Ready Player One to a certain extent, but in this case, it's all these worlds, all these different genres of animes being built inside of the metaverse. It'd be so cool.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think that's such a cool, like, it's such a great idea and everything that you guys have been doing, and like being able to have that, and it's so cool that you have the different genres and people are getting engaged. And I think I think the other cool part, and Bryan, you kind of mentioned it, it's like, maybe people don't like to game, but they like to read and watch, or they like to watch a game. But I think it kind of opens up other doors for people in ways in the anime world, because like, all right, I'm watching Adamanto, but hey, I can read about Adamanto, and hey, I can play this character. Like, I never really was into reading manga, but now I'm into reading manga because Adamanto opened that door for me, or I'm into playing games or being a part of the metaverse because I never really gave it a shot. So Adamanto or like Undead Reckoning like open those doors for me. So I think it gives it a whole different type. I think that the engagement really gives it a whole different different world for people to really enjoy.
No, for sure. And kind of like you mentioned, it's a gateway, right?
Yeah.
For people to experience things that they may not have been aware of. So for instance, out of all of those channels, the E is probably, or no, definitely the most unknown commodity because it's the metaverse, right? It's relatively new. And then you have all these products, NFTs, and then GameFi that's associated with it. And people, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword where one, people are mistrustful of it because of all the shenanigans that have been going on, and rightfully so. And then you have people that just aren't aware of it, that just haven't, they don't know about it. So when, they start off at the R phase, and then all of a sudden they figure out or discover that, hey, we've got this Engage, which includes all of this other stuff. I'm invested in Adamanto as an example. So now I'm going to go check Adamanto out in this new environment, right? So that's cool. That's another cool aspect of it as well. So hopefully, getting people to open their eyes to different things and experience, the characters that they love in different ways. That's always been one of the main goals as well.
Yeah, and in the Engage part of it, we're in the metaverse. You're going to be able to play in metaverse games. What we're going to be doing, and those some will be gamify, play to earn. And if you're not interested in that, you don't have to do that. You can play the games without worrying about earning anything, right? So it brings that total encompasses all gamers who are interested in playing stuff that can do this without having to get involved in the crypto industry if they don't want to. But the goal is you have mini quests and mini games you play. Those are get you encouraged and get you to like what you're doing, and whatever you gather there, that gathering of situational gear, money, and things like that are in-game money, you could carry that right into the RPG game. So the goal is to take you from there, like you were talking about earlier. Might not have been a big game player, but I'm playing these mini quests. These are fun. I wonder what the RPG games will be like. Now you're looking at a downloadable RPG game. You're looking at something that might be on a console, like we're talking about Switch, possibly PlayStation. Then you're also looking at a mobile. So you'll be able to play on your mobile devices, your computer, and also on your console. So you got a whole nother engagement level at that point in time. You carry from that to the play. And that gets traditional gamers who can play it, and also anybody who's looking to gamify or game to earn. Those components carry over that as well. And it doesn't care which one you want to be. You can be just a gamer. That's all we're looking for. Be a gamer. You want to be this side? Great, do it. It's all available to you. We built it that way so you can fully access the power of Web3. If you don't want to do that, you got full access over here to play the game like you would traditionally. And it doesn't take anything away from the experience. And that's the key, right? You got to have that experience for the gamer. Without that experience, it's just not fun. So you got to bring it across.
Right. And that brings me up to my next question too, because Adamanto RPG, that's in, we talked to the guys from Plow Games when they were here on the podcast. What's updates going on with the Adamanto RPG, and tell us about that.
Yeah. Okay. So from my end, I'm relatively new or newer to this process than Gary is, so he'll be able to talk in more detail about it. But really planning out a game based on a story that already exists has I never thought I'd be able to say this, but it's a new writing challenge for me because I thought I'd been through it all, whether it's, scripting for comics or manga, screenplays, writing speeches, doing copy for advertising and marketing campaigns. This has been a new experience, which has been absolutely wild, simply because when you think about the parameters of the game, so the Adamanto game, you're going to be playing as the chief protagonist, Shinichi Tanzo. So when you go through the actual manga book, Shinichi isn't in every scene. He's not in every situation. But then you've got to kind of go back to the game and figure out a way to either change it so it makes sense or get him involved in that scene. So there are all these kind of like different things that you have to account for to create, a game that is not only cool, but also properly represents the story in which it's based on. So that's the process I've been going through over the past couple of weeks, where it's like, okay, here's the script, here's how the story goes down. Now I've got to figure out, based on some of the stuff that our developers have sent to us, some of the parameters that Gary has established with the chronology of the game, and then also introducing all these elements. So don't forget, you have cutscenes, you have animations, you have puzzle-based parts of the game, fighting-based, strategy, all of these different things. How do you attach that to the lore that already exists? So, I won't, it's been a challenge, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun, I gotta say.
Yeah, for me, it's the opposite, right? This is the easiest part. Whenever you have a really good story and now you're looking at a story and say, okay, so what do I want to make? How do I want to engage people? Because not only do I have to engage, entertain, then I have to keep them engaged, right? A game that doesn't continuously move forward or have actions that get you to do something and keep you moving the story going, you get player anxiety, you get player tiredness, and you don't want those things. You want players to be engaged, you want them to be excited, you want them to keep watching and wanting to come back and continuously play the game. So whether it's a 10-hour game or a 100-hour game, you still want to be continuously engaged and entertained, or you're going to lose their attention, right?
Right.
So then the challenge comes when you say, well, they go from here to here. Well, we know they're going to go from Japan to Greece. Well, in an anime, it's just, in a manga, it's just, oh, they're in Greece now. Well, in a game, it's like, no. They don't just go to Greece. Now they have to travel there. And then you start working out how they're going to get there. We're going to have them go air, sea. What are the challenges? Well, we'll make it easy, hard, and nightmare. So like in the other game, here's the easy path to doing it. You can get across. The harder path, well, the modern one will have these. And the nightmare want to have a massive boss battles or more challenging things like you would in anything else, like a D&D or something. The higher level you have, the more difficulty it is for you to get through. The lower level you have, the more easier it is to go through. And for us, one of the big things we liked about it is that you're starting with a character who's already an experienced, fighter. You don't have to level up, but you're not him. You're learning to control him. So now as the game thing, you're him, but in the sense you're the player, right? You've got to figure out how to use all his weapons and situations.
Yeah.
So the challenge is figuring those things. So those have been the fun parts. All right. So what do we want these quests to be? How difficult will these be? How long do we want this to go for? And all these different things. Because we've developed games in the past, having been involved in games, played games pretty much all my life, you always go through what was the most fun experience you ever had playing a game. What was the most tedious experience you had and made you never want to play that game again, right? And those are things you got to think about when you're developing that whole storyline. And Plow's doing an awesome job for us. We're meeting again this week and next week, going through some more of the gameplay, and then we're very excited to start getting towards that first few levels of MVP, so people can start going out and testing it. It's very cool.
Yeah, and that was really one of the most fascinating aspects of Gary touched upon it, where it's very detail oriented. So if you've read the Adamanto chapter 1, which I encourage you to go check out on the website, it's also available on VoiceMe. But when we are building the storyline for it, we wanted to introduce something that was very layered, very dynamic, but not to the point where it was confusing, right? But I think we accomplished that, and now we're transposing that to the game. So little touches like, you don't have to level up. Shinichi's already a master level bladesmith. He's also a kick-ass samurai, so he's got all this, he's got all these skills. So we're kind of going the other way, where it's like, I'm playing as this character, but I've got to learn how to properly wield this power at his disposal. And then we just up that level when he dons the Nexus of Adamanto, which is like the realm's most powerful weapon. But it's kind of like, if you give someone a weapon that they don't know how to properly utilize, they're going to do more damage than they do good. So you have to learn how to master the stuff, not only his skills, his abilities, but also how he uses different weapons, how he forges them, all of these different things. And I think that's really the hallmark of a great game, where you have all of these different aspects to it that make it continuously, you want to keep coming back for more and more and more. You'll never get bored with the stuff that we're putting out, because there's always going to be something new to explore.
Yeah.
I love that approach. I don't know if I've ever played a game with that approach of like your character's already so skilled in the fighting aspect and everything, but then you're like using like the like teaching them how to wield, like you have to wield the sword properly, or like it's a way different approach. That's actually like it's like a fantastic approach to like something. It's like a different way to go about it.
When I first heard of it, when Gary first laid it on me, it was like, yes, definitely that is something. And it makes all the sense in the world. And it also really adheres to who this character is, because he is already at that level. So it didn't make sense. And when I, thinking about it, going back, it makes all the sense in the world, because why would we have Shinichi, as this kind of nubile rookie just learning the ropes? No, he's been doing this for quite a while. And then especially when he gets that Nexus of Adamanto, he's pretty much the most powerful creature to walk the face of the earth.
Just doesn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Well, no, and that is the thing too. That follows the lore, because when he first puts the Nexus on and they come in the form of these two gauntlets, he doesn't quite know what he's doing, right? So he has a learning process that will follow the line of the game, where the person playing as Shinichi will learn right along with him and figure things out. And there's going to be some mistakes along the way, believe you me.
And the one thing we're doing is it's interesting too. I don't think a lot of people are doing this as well, from a standpoint of creating a metaverse type of game, which is a streaming game, right? And then a console type game. The environments, we want them to be pretty close to being the same. So we create the villages and the towns and stuff, and what we're doing in the game is we want those to be the same ones that are in the metaverse, that you're doing your mini quest and things like that. So you're experiencing it in both sides. So you don't have to always be on it. So if you're on your phone, say we do a console-based game and you're accessing a console, but if you're out running around, you can actually get your phone, pick it up, or your tablet, and you can run around that same village inside of our metaverse and go to the stores and pick up things that you might want to do. In-game purchasing and purchase, things like that are there, but you can also earn by not crypto earning, but earn too, like you would in a traditional game, where you can earn upgrades on weapons. You can upgrade, maybe get potions for healing and things like that. So all those things we're integrating into both of them. So you'll be able to do this over here, carry it into here, right? And that's one thing that's going to be, I think, unique about us compared to what I've seen. I haven't really seen a lot of that out there, where both the online game and the metaverse game and the console game actually interact with each other. Right? Typically, it's a large, massive multiplayer open world environment, and it's all on that. But we're talking about this type of game and this, and it's going to be interesting how we bring that together.
It's that, yeah. I mean, the approach and everything that you guys are doing is different, but I think it's going to be. I mean, for my mind, I play video games, and this is probably where the P comes in, is playing. Is like, it's huge. I think that's such a different approach to like how you guys are doing things, and I think it's could be a transcendent way of how people go about games going forward. And I think you're already got, I mean, your foot's way ahead of than some other people that are doing it. So that's a very way cool to like approach about everything, like with the gaming, and then like, having the engagement on both sides. It's cool to like you keeping people like, you might have a Web3 gamer that wants to try the RPG or vice versa. So you're
exactly.
And it goes back to that E. So it's just everything. The reps thing always is tying in together in some sort of way, and it's really cool.
And this is our first one. So this is our single player game.
Yeah.
Our next one's going to get into Supernatural, and that's going to be a multiplayer game, which is going to be exciting because now you can play. Even play the dog, as Bryan can explain. But you can play the different characters, but it's going to bring these characters into life. And the same thing, engage in the metaverse, multiplayer this time, and then game in the console and PC games as a multiplayer too, which is very exciting. And then that could be a full streaming game too, which is very something to really consider too. But we look at everything we're doing, again, it's fully integrated, and it's all about that immersive experience. We want you to be immersed inside of our stories. So whether it's being pulled in and use your imagination to visualize everything in the manga, be engaged in being what the environment is based on our interpretation of what it is based on the manga into the metaverse, and then going and playing games. So everything's about that immersive. And then at the end, when we come out finally, like Bryan was saying, in the future, and that's definitely the future, not tomorrow, this 5 years out possibly, then you'll be able to see that as an anime, and you can see, hey, I played that game. Oh, it's very cool. Look at that. And you get that whole experience again, which is the whole idea, is to give you experience, another experience, and just keep that experience going. So now you feel that affinity to that character and to what we have going on.
It's fantastic. I think I brought up, it's a whole circular event. It's like a world. It's not a linear. Well, Anime Village is not linear. It's a world. It's continuously growing and expanding that world and discovering and making the engagement as fun as possible for people who are, anime fans, manga fans, and gamers all into one aspect into this world, and they're gonna, once everyone's gonna love it. I mean, it's fantastic, and I'm like so pumped up about that RPG idea. I'm like, my mind keeps going back to that because I love that idea. It's such a different aspect of it because I don't know. I just think of characters who get these powers and they already know how to control them, but like here you got a skill, you got a guy that's skilled, but you have to learn how to use the sword the right way. I think that's such a real life approach and such a cool aspect on that.
Well, wait until you meet Arrow from Undead Reckoning. He's going to take that learning process to an entirely new and disastrous level. That is for sure.
I love it.
I like the talking dog though.
Yeah. And speaking of Undead Reckoning, can you give us some updates on, Undead Reckoning and where it is?
Yeah, so I've been scripting it. I mean, we came up with the idea for Undead along with Adamanto and the two other titles. So for those unfamiliar, we've covered this in the podcast before. We've established or identified 4 key genres that speak to all anime manga people and gaming fans as well, where we have action, adventure, supernatural, and slice of life. And from there you can create subgenres. But focusing on those 4 primary genres at first, we're developing the reps program for all of them. So we start off with action. Adamanto is the read section with the manga. Then we go on to the Engage, the metaverse, which is Fury Falls. That's the action part of it. And then we go on to, we discussed before, so I won't go into detail on that, on the P for the play for Adamanto. And then finally, it would be an Adamanto anime show. For Supernatural, it's Undead Reckoning. And then the metaverse is going to be Mystic Valley, and then we go on to the game part, and then we go on to the anime part. But insofar as, and I know you asked this question, I kind of went on about all this other stuff first. The scripting is going amazing. To be honest with you, I've had a bunch of other things that have come into play with, specifically the RPG planning for Adamanto. But I was telling Gary this a couple of days ago. Supernatural was never my go-to, right? I've always been a more action-adventure kind of guy, a big mecha fan. I love Caillou. I love, the whole Godzilla, Toho kind of thing. But, Supernatural, and when I'm writing this, it's kind of like, geez, I think I like this as much, if not even more than Adamanto, simply because the depth of it and the way it's going to be able to be expressed in these different environments in the metaverse and in the RPGs, and it's just going to be absolutely incredible. So, I've put some of my personal touches on it, what I really love. So, for instance, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. So, Escape from New York is one of the influences or one of the inspirations behind the story, or at least the main story. But just it really kind of delves deep into Japanese mythology and lore, with a lot of the yokai and a lot of the onis, which are like demon spirits and all of these other kind of creatures that actually exist. And similar to Adamanto, we're tapping into historical fiction right? In this case, where these characters already exist, but we're bringing them into our world and they're interacting with our creations in a way that's never been done before. So yeah, I mean, Undead has just been an absolute blast. It's so much fun. Aaron Osemi, who is the main character in that one, he's I think a lot of people are going to dig what he's all about. He's just a lot of fun, and he's a very flawed character, and a lot of people are going to be able to relate to him in many different ways.
Well, and the beauty of Supernatural is you can remove the handcuffs of reality, right? So you're able to do things that you couldn't do before. You can do these cruel things, these really cruel things to people because they're demons, right? Demons can do things to people that you can't do in the real world and stuff like that. And then bringing back all these different things, it just you get, like me, I get just excited. Like Bryan and I start talking about, it's like, yeah, we'll just wait. There's some cool things. And but one thing that's very interesting we're doing too, and this one we may have talked this a long time ago, but I'll bring it up again, is that one character transcends everything, right? It'll be in every one of our mangas, it'll be throughout the metaverse, and it'll be something you'll be able to interact with all the time. And her house is right behind me. Suki is one of the characters that you'll see in the very first page of Adamanto, and you'll start seeing her in the other mangas as well. And there's other pieces and parts that I don't want to get into because Bryan is masterfully integrating these pieces and parts as well. And I'll let him talk about that. But we're looking to bring her as being an AI generated character that you'll find in the games. You'll find in everything we're doing for anime. So reps across the board will also have an S woven in throughout everything.
I love it. Yeah, I saw Suki on the first page of anime. When I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that I know that. I'll do it all right there.
Yeah, the best way I can describe Suki is she's kind of like Uatu, the Watcher from Marvel Comics way back in the day.
Yeah.
So she's really kind of like out there chronicling things, but not getting involved in things. But she also acts as a guide in Village 555. So if you're new to Anime Village, you come in, you don't quite know where to begin. You can always just, pay Suki a visit in her virtual holo, which is displayed behind Gary there, and ask her a couple of questions, and she'll point you in the right direction.
And she'll be in the game too. She'll be your telling you your hints. Your hints will come from her. Your things, things like that will pop in. You'll be present. We like for her. She's kind of our mascot in a sense for Anime Village across the board for everything. So look for plushies coming soon.
I love that. No, it's such a great idea. And I mean, everything that you guys have done is just like absolutely fantastic. And being able to roll it out and then see it start to come to life step by step is really just a really cool thing. And, starting to see your characters, starting to come to life. I mean, Bryan, I want to kind of jump back a little bit to the RPG. The Adamanto, what's it going to be like to see Shinichi come to life and your characters come to life in a video game in itself, just on the RPG?
Yeah, well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited about it. It's really just a question of, well, what iteration of Shinichi is it going to be, right? Because that's another challenge you face when, okay, you have Shinichi that appears in the manga, and then you have Shinichi that appears as an avatar, then you have Shinichi that appears in an RPG, and then eventually an anime. Well, there's going to have to be some changes for him to adapt to that environment, right? But you have to retain the core essence of that character. When I was first thinking about the creation of Shinichi Tanzo, I didn't really forecast him starring in a game. But as luck would have it, he's custom made to be in a game because he's a complete badass, right? I mean, he is just really someone that people are going to enjoy playing as because that's his nature, right? He's a master bladesmith, he's a master samurai, and his, one of his greatest strengths is his will to succeed. So it doesn't matter what obstacle he's facing, he's going to overcome it, especially with the Nexus of Adamanto by his side.
That's awesome. It's super exciting to see all this come to life. And then recently, you guys had just made some updates to the website. The website looks very sleek and very user friendly. And I mean, what was the idea to get the website updated and make tell us the design about that and the updates?
Well, it's our first phase. So this is not our final phase. This is just the
No.
first phase of website updates. Our next phase will be more custom driven, because as we start developing more and start getting more and more material, more and more assets that we build, we'll start getting out there. We want fans to see everything that's going on. We don't want to hold back and just show bits and pieces. We want people to see what's going on. We want them to understand we're a constantly evolving company when it comes to the content and so forth. So as it starts coming to life, just like we have now with having the full chapter 1 out there of Adamanto, a lot of people wouldn't put anything out there. They just hold on to it until it got almost completely done. Then they would start drip marketing campaign things out or get it into publishing. But since we're digital driven right now, for us, we want people to read it. We want people to get engaged. Not really about people buying it right now. We want people to get out there and see it, because we want to start building that the fandom to see say, hey, when's the next chapter coming out? When's this coming out? When's this coming out? Then that gets everybody engaged and involved. And for us, we're fans. So we don't expect fans to sit outside and wait to see things. If I was a fan, I want to see something going on. I want to know that you're doing something. I want to see the creativity. I want to be able to say, hey, I like that, or I don't like that as a fan. And I think too many companies hide things from people, and then they release them and they can't figure out why people hate things or why they dislike a game. Why did you give me this game? It's a piece of crap, or this interface is terrible. Well, you never talk to me, the fan, or all the fandom that's out there. You need to, again, you're asking permission for them to view your stuff. You're never pushing that in front of them. They have to want to come there and look at it. So for me, from a standpoint of, I'm a fan, I want to be treated just like I want to be if I was on the outside. So that's why Bryan and I look at everything saying, okay, when we do things, we're going to update things as we go. So the website is just first phase. Second phase, it'll be much more custom. It'll have the marketplace all integrated into it, customized and so forth. So it'll grow and evolve as we evolve as well.
It's great. Yeah, it looks awesome, and everything that you guys done, and obviously growing it, continuing to grow. And I loving the reps and getting the reps out there for people to see and, follow, get into it, engage with Anime Village. And I think that's the most, one of the best parts about it. It's just so cool. And hearing you guys talk about everything that's going on, I'm pumped. I'm excited for the RPG. I don't know if you guys are going to be showcasing or playing any demos anywhere, but I'm going to be cutting in line to get in the front of the line to play that RPG for sure. But
we'll reserve your spot right now.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. But no, this has been awesome to talk about reps and what Anime Village is doing there. And thank you guys so much for your time today, and giving the listeners a whole different aspect of Anime Village too.
Yeah, we'll be pushing the message very strong over the next couple of months for sure. But it's a way for people to really understand what we're doing and what we're pushing out there and why fans should be excited about it.
Yeah, the best thing to do is follow us on we have so many social accounts out there. Follow us on our social accounts. We are constantly feeding information out to people. And if you want to be involved, you want to test, you want to get on things on the website, we have alpha beta testers. We're asking for people to put information in. If you want to, you have services or something where you want to provide, you want to do things, reach out to us. I mean, we're building this whole thing for the fans, not just for us. I mean, that'd be pretty selfish of us to build it just for ourselves.
Well, we're fans too, so we're kind of bundled in with the rest of them. And
yeah, we're like everybody else. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're definitely not difficult to get a hold of and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. Make sure to check out the website, myanimeVillage.com. And, check out our LinkedIn. We have all the blog posts are going through the LinkedIn as well, too. Check out the Instagram at myanimeVillage. So appreciate, and the TikTok at myanimeVillage. So appreciate you guys tuning in today. Thank you so much for, thank you guys so much for your time today and, talking to us about reps and all the great things that Anime Village has going on.
Anytime. Our pleasure.
Thanks, guys.